If you're feeling distracted, constantly scrolling, and just not getting the important things done, then you're in the right place. We're going to talk about a dopamine detox, but not the 24-hour internet challenges you've probably seen. No, we're breaking down a real protocol designed for lasting change. Okay, let's jump right in.
Right off the bat, let's get one thing perfectly clear. Anyone can put their phone down for a day. But if you just go right back to all your old habits on day 2, what was the point? The goal here isn't some temporary fix. It's about a fundamental shift in your relationship with all this modern-day stimulation.
Most people fail at this because they don't have a real plan. They just try to wing it. So what's the actual structured way to do this that leads to real growth, better focus, and just genuine mental clarity? Well, that's exactly what we're about to unpack.
Okay, first up, we've got to talk about the foundation. This isn't even about the how just yet. It's all about the why. It's the mindset you need before you even start. Because honestly, without this, the rest is pretty much pointless.
So you have to ask yourself this. Be brutally honest. Think about it. A doctor's most successful patients are always the ones who truly get what's at stake if they don't change. You need to really internalize your why. This is the fuel that's going to get you through the tough parts. And the protocol itself, it's actually surprisingly simple. It breaks down into just 3 parts. First, preparation. That's where you plan out the rules. Second, execution. That's the detox itself. And finally, restoration, which is all about intentionally building a better life when you're done. And it's crucial you do them in that exact order. So let's dive into that first part. Step 1, preparation. This is where we lay all the groundwork, we define the rules of the game, and we set ourselves up to win from the very beginning.
To get those real, lasting results, the protocol is built around getting rid of 4 specific categories of high dopamine activities for the entire time. These are the big ones, and yeah, they are completely non-negotiable.
First up is what we'll call binge tech. And this doesn't just mean trying to avoid it. No, this means you physically delete the apps from your phone. You use blockers on your computer. Relying on willpower alone just isn't enough when our brains are literally wired to chase that instant hit.
Second, the protocol targets sources of impulsive, high-stimulation sexual behavior. And what's really fascinating here is that this includes things like dating apps. The research shows that even just the pursuit, the act of swiping, can release these huge dopamine spikes, sometimes even bigger than the reward itself.
Third, consumables. No alcohol, no recreational drugs, and no junk food. The reason for this is simple. To really reset your brain, your mind has to be unaltered. All of those things are often used as an escape from reality. And for this to work, we need to face reality head-on.
And finally, thrill-seeking. These activities are so powerful because of something called variable rewards. It's when you're not sure if the reward will be big or small, but there's a chance it could be amazing, and your brain just goes wild for that. It's like an all-you-can-eat dopamine buffet.
So how long does all of this last? Well, the recommended minimum is 7 full days. That's about how much time your brain needs to really start rebalancing its dopamine receptors and get back to a healthier, more natural baseline.
But why is a reset like this even necessary in the first place? Well, it all comes down to a biological process called desensitization. To put it simply, the more high dopamine stuff you consume, the less you actually enjoy it. It's your brain's natural defense mechanism to stop itself from being constantly overwhelmed. And this is a brilliant way to picture it. Think of your brain like a speaker. If the input volume from your phone, from junk food, from everything is cranked up to max 24/7, you have to turn down the speaker's volume just to cope. With a detox, we're finally turning down that crazy input so the speaker, your brain, can get back to a normal, balanced level. All right, we've done our prep. Now we move into the execution phase. And there is one feeling that you are absolutely guaranteed to experience, and one you cannot run away from: boredom. Normally, the second we feel a hint of boredom, we instinctively reach for our phone. But during the detox, feeling bored is actually a sign that it's working. It means your dopamine receptors are finally getting a breather and starting to rebalance. Your only job is to just sit with that feeling. But this isn't about just staring at a wall for a week. To fill that space, the protocol gives you 3 simple, non-negotiable practices to do every single day. Think of these as ways to retrain your brain to enjoy healthier, more sustainable sources of dopamine. First, self-reflection. We're talking at least 10 minutes a day. You can meditate, you can journal, whatever works for you. We're so consumed by all the noise out there that we rarely just make time to think. And self-reflection is the absolute foundation of self-improvement. Second, exercise. And this doesn't have to be some insane workout. A simple 30-minute walk is perfect.
Just moving your body provides a healthy, steady release of dopamine. It's exactly the kind of natural stimulation your brain has been craving.
And third, connection. Have a real conversation with another human being. Call a friend, call your parents. This releases a whole cocktail of positive neurochemicals. And for an extra boost, tell them why you're doing this detox. It holds you accountable, and who knows, you might even inspire them.
So, you've made it through the 7 days. Now what? Well, this brings us to the final, and you could argue, the most important step of all, restoration. This is where we start to mindfully and intentionally reintroduce things back into our lives.
The purpose of this whole thing isn't to live like a monk forever. In fact, think about it. If you have to create an absolute rule to never use social media again, then who's really in control? The real goal is to be intentional with how, when, and why you consume things.
And this is the golden question. Before you bring anything back into your life, you have to ask yourself this. Does it align with my values? Does this thing actively help me become the person I want to be? If the answer is no, you now have the power to just leave it out of your life. It really is that simple. This brings us to a final concept, and it's a really cool one. It's what elevates this whole protocol from a simple reset into a powerful tool for personal growth. It's the idea of becoming anti-fragile.
We usually think of two outcomes when we face stress, right? Something is either fragile, so it breaks under pressure, or it's resilient, so it just bounces back to how it was before. But there is a third option, anti-fragile. This is when you don't just withstand stress or chaos, you actually become stronger because of it. You literally gain from the disorder.
The perfect analogy for this is the Hydra from Greek mythology. You cut off one of its heads, and it doesn't just grow back, it becomes more powerful. After this detox, you're not just back to your old baseline. You've learned, you've adapted, and you are now stronger. So the final question is for you. You've cleaned the slate. You've hit the reset button. You are fundamentally not the same person you were just 1 week ago. So, instead of just bouncing back to your old life, how will you choose to use this experience to become more powerful, more intentional, and truly stronger than you were before?